Welcome again to the continuation of our series on human nutrition, and today we are taking lesson 15, religion, body needs, socio-economic status. And in it, we'll be discussing religion and health as it relates to nutrition, body needs as it relates to nutrition, and then the socio-economic status as it relates to religion. We'll also be discussing availability of resources and geographical factors. So listen up and make sure you take notes and do your assignment when you need to, and then ensure you summarize what you've learned in conjunction with what you've read. So let's move on to the next slide. Religion and health. Religion can influence health practices and health behavior, and I'm sure by now you already understand that because we talked about religion in the last lesson, in lesson 14, where we talked about issue of Ramadan, fasting, and Christians also fasting, and some persons who abstain, and so on. So religion can influence health practices and health behavior. It can including the diet and lifestyle choices and access to healthcare. So religion affects generally a lot of areas of lifestyle. Now, certain religions will mandate specific dietary restrictions or guidelines. Example, vegetarianism in Hinduism. So it will restrict that, look, you do not eat vegetable at so times. You do not eat anything that is of vegetable, be it fruit or whatsoever. How about fasting in Islam? You also have no pork in Judaism, like I've told you before, which can impact nutritional status. So imagine somebody who dare not eat pork, somebody who should fast for a long time and so on, when the person ought not to fast, maybe by medical advice, but will neglect it. So that's another major issue. Religious beliefs also affect healthcare choices. And so there's a change, unlike what others do. But because of their religious belief, they decide to abstain from it, with some groups preferring traditional medicine or spiritual healing over modern medical treatments. They believe that God can do it, and so many of them, other than go for treatments or engage in what they've been told to do medically, they decide to resort to traditional medicine or spiritual healing. Next, let us see body needs. The body needs. Now, the human body requires various nutrients, and I've explained to you before macronutrients and micronutrients to maintain optimal health. This is key. Adequate nutrition will support immune function. It will support growth, tissue repair, and metabolic processes. Now, these nutritional needs, they vary based on the age, sex, activity level, and the psychological conditions. For example, pregnancy, during lactation, or illness. This is very key. And so the body needs varies and must be given the right, perspective or attention. Now let us see the third one, socio-economic status. Now the SES is a key determinant of health and influences access to resources like food, healthcare, education, and living conditions. Because the economy itself determines on a long run people's access by way of provision, importation, availability, and financing. And so when these resources are available, you have quality food available, quality healthcare available, education available, and good living conditions. So socioeconomic stratification involves you dividing the population into different classes based on education, occupation, and income. And this is key in every economy. The Kupuswami scale is commonly used in India to assess SES, that is the socioeconomic status. And how does it do that? By scoring based on the income per family, education by individuals, and occupation by individuals, because it will determine how buoyant that will be able to guarantee accessibility to finance that can afford all these good things of life. Poor socioeconomic status is linked with poorer health outcomes. When there is no good socioeconomic status, the people will suffer because they will not have what it takes to assess the needs, which is good, compulsory, essential for them as people. And this will happen due to limited access to nutritious food, limited access to preventive health care, and limited access to what? Healthy living conditions. So let's see the next one, availability of these resources. The availability of food is influenced by geographical location, agricultural productivity in that community, and socio-political factors. These socio-political factors, as leaders, will ensure that these policies are put in place, the finances are made available, the farmers have access to fertilizer and land, and then they provide all the essential things that will help provide food for the nation. Now, for instance, rural areas may have limited access to fresh produce compared to the urban centers. Yes, they will have limited access to fresh produce compared to the urban centers. Now, food distribution systems can create disparities in access, because when it is imported, if the distribution is based on affordability, a lot of persons in the rural areas will not be able to get it. Now, if it is accessibility, equal distribution based on population drive, some will be taken to the rural, they will access, and some will be taken to the urban. But particularly in low-income or remote regions, it may be difficult to access this essential, food or resources that should be made available to them. Why? Because of the low income, because of lack of funds to be able to purchase, afford these good things like fruits, vegetables, and so on. Now, economic and political policies also play a crucial role in food distribution and availability, as it were. Because if the economy is bad, it will affect the availability of food, let alone distribution. If the political policies is one-sided or not properly done to accommodate, the real essence of the demographic data that was received, it will be skewed to a particular aspect. And therefore, you will find that the distribution is not adequate. Availability will be down in certain areas like the rural area. So policies favoring bulk commodity production like corn and soya can reduce the availability of healthier options like fruits and vegetables. There need to be a proper balancing of what and how they are gotten, so that it can be distributed, and a little of this, a little of that, with a lot of varieties available, the people can have a balance of these needs. Geographical factors, climate, topography, and proximity to natural resources determine the types of crops that can be grown, influencing regional diets and food availability. Climate, topography, and proximity to natural resources, which is key. The condition of the climate, the nature of the land, proximity to natural resources like water determine the types of crops that can be grown. And this will influence regional diets and food availability, because if you live in a rural area, you will eat fish, you'll be tired. You will eat seafood, you'll be tired. But if you live in areas that you don't find rivers there, you will rarely, in most occasions, see some specific species. In fact, it will be difficult to see some nice food from the sea that others in the river area see every day. And so these options may not be there. Geographical isolation can make it more difficult for communities to access nutritious food, and this will contribute to poor health outcomes, particularly in less developed areas. Particularly in less developed areas. And so we have come to an end of the discussion today. And in our discussion, we have seen here the religion, body needs, and socio-economic status. And we have seen what religion and health, how it affects, food nutrition, the body needs, why it is important, socio-economic status, how it affects, the needs, how it affects the access and provision of these important nutrients that we need for the body. And we have also seen availability of resources. What are those things that makes it available? What are those things that could prevent the availability, that could hinder or barrier to provision? We have seen geographical factors as well. And remember, we have talked about the possibility or advantage of having a good climate, topography, and proximity to natural resources. And so we come to an end of today's class. I'll see you in the next class. Remember, you're expected to take notes, you're expected to read, you're expected to understand, you're expected to ask questions, and I'll be available to answer every question. Simply go to the Google Classroom and type your questions there. I'll see you in the next class. Well done. Bye.